Good morning and happy Mother's Day. Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They are a garland to your grace, and they are a garland to grace your head, and a chain to adorn your neck.
Well, good morning. It is good to see you. Happy Mother's Day. I almost said Father's Day. I got a little internal ego problems, I guess. But happy Mother's Day to each and every one of you out there. I'm grateful whether you're a mom or you have a mom. We hope that you have a blessed day and are able to celebrate. I always like to take a little moment at the beginning of days like today and acknowledge that today is not always easy or joyous for everybody, right? There are folks out here whose moms cannot be with them today, the folks whose moms have passed on. There are those who are estranged from their mothers at this season in life. There are those who always wanted to be a mom and have not had that opportunity to do so. And we hope that you know that we see you in this place. We love you. We care about those pains and those struggles. And we hope that you feel welcomed here and are comforted regardless of what the situation might be today. But with that said, we also hope that you can join us to celebrate all the many blessings and the good things that mothers have done for so many of us, right? And they have, haven't they? Yeah, absolutely. You know, we love our moms for all the wonderful things they do for us. Whether they're a mom who will fix your car for you, like Miss Beth, or a mom who will help stitch together an outfit for you, like Monica. You know, our mothers have a special way of loving us and blessing us and caring for us. Now, of course, they're not perfect. Moms aren't. They'll embarrass you at school. They'll spank you for something your brother did, as I occasionally had growing up. You know, but we need that a little bit so that we don't forget that they're human, right? To bring them down to earth a little bit. In fact, a little story here that I'm figuring my mom will see later, but I think it's funny. When text and emojis first came out on text messages, emojis, my mom would always send this one really specific emoji that never seemed to fit the context. So, for example, I would send her a video of our girls competing in gymnastics and doing something well, and she's like, "Oh man, they're doing really good. Cringe face." And I'm like, okay. Or she texts me on a Tuesday and she's like, "Hey, you had a really nice sermon last week. Grimace." And I'm like, eventually I said, "Mom, why are you being so super passive-aggressive all of a sudden? I don't understand what's going on." She's like, "What do you mean? Like, well, you keep sending me this pained, cringing, grimacing emoji." She's like, "Oh, I thought that was a really, really big smile." Like, I guess it's small on the phone, right? And that's better than the story of the mom who thought LOL meant lots of love and would send it to her friends after they had deep tragedies, LOL, and think it meant lots of love, right? I tell my mom we got to tease her about these things to help bring her down to earth for all the good that she does for us. Now, of course, my kids are too young to be teasing their mom, so I help them. I do it for them a little bit. But even through the hard times that we will give our moms, and we give our moms a hard time, right? We know that we would be in real bad shape without them. You know, our mothers do more for us than we could even truly vocalize. From the obvious stereotypical things like the cooking and the cleaning that so many of them do, to the deeper and less seen things like it's just standing up for us in sticky situations. I have more times than I would like to admit where I was in a bad spot. I had done something, I had screwed up, and you want to know who stood by me? You want to know who had my back in those moments? It was my mom. Probably to her fault sometimes, probably in a way that did not help her reputation, but she had my back. She was there for me and loved me. Or those times when moms will sit with us when we're upset or when we feel lost. You know, to be a mom is to embody some really deeply incredible qualities, right? You know, and I think that's why God uses the metaphor of a mother sometimes to describe his love and relationship with us. We don't acknowledge this enough, but God in Scripture uses the image of a mother and a metaphor of a mother to describe his relationship and love with us. Here's just 4 that I picked from many. Most prevalent, Isaiah 66, "As a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you, and you will be comforted over Jerusalem." And you'll be comforted over Jerusalem. Syntax. Deuteronomy 32, "You deserted the rock who fathered you. You forgot the God who gave you birth." Matthew 23:37, I really like this one. Jesus says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those who sent to you. How often I have longed to gather your children together as a mother hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing. Hosea 11:3-4. It was I who taught Ephraim, which is another name for Israel, Ephraim to walk, taking them by the arms. But they did not realize it was I who healed them. I led them with cords of human kindness, with ties of love. To them I was like the one who lifts a little child up to the cheek, and I bent over to feed them, right? Isn't that interesting? Like, there's all these like mother-like metaphors and images in Scripture for God that we don't acknowledge a whole lot. I especially like the Matthew one, because sometimes I'll have conversations with people who are like, we need to be tougher like Jesus. I'm like, oh, the Jesus who described himself as a mommy chicken? Sometimes we forget about that one, right? Now, I don't want everybody to freak out like I'm trying to do some crazy new age stuff, all right? I'm just reading the Bible here. Yes, in the Bible, God largely reveals himself as a father to us. That is the image he uses the most. But as you can see here, occasionally, he uses a mother-type language, right? And because God doesn't actually have any genitalia, we can appreciate both of these images, both of these metaphors, as a description to help us know and understand our Creator, right? Yes? More or less, am I scaring you or something? God uses these kind of languages, and it's helpful. And I wanted to draw this out this morning because I think it's affirming. It should be affirming for our mothers, for our sisters in Christ, to realize that God sees their qualities, sees their attributes, sees their love and their strength and their passion, their protective nature and all of that. And he wants us to view him in light of those beautiful attributes and qualities that our mothers and our sisters have, right? Isn't that wonderful? I think it is. So thank you, moms, for your quite godly gifts of life and compassion, love, and protection. So this morning, in honor of our moms, I want us to look at a popular passage for days like today, a passage that evaded Rich's iPad, thankfully, so that we didn't double down on the same message this morning, Proverbs 31. If you can flip over to that would be fantastic. It's a passage that I've never actually gotten the opportunity to preach from, but Proverbs 31, the message of the wife of noble character in Proverbs 31. While you're flipping over to that, I have a couple fun little tidbits about this passage that I thought it would be worth sharing, though all of you are looking at the screen and they just expect me to go to it, and I will, and that's okay. You don't have to turn there. So one that I think is really interesting, Proverbs 31, or at least verses 10 and on, is an acrostic poem. You know what I mean? Like acrostic poem, like all 22 verses, the first letter of the first word of each of those verses is the next letter in the Hebrew alphabet. There's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. There's 22 verses in this passage, and the first one starts with Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, the Hebrew alphabet, which I think is like the most Mother's Day thing ever, right? How many of you moms have ever gotten the card that says mom, and it's M for magnificent, and O for outstanding, and M for magical, right? That's literally what's going on in Proverbs 31, and I love that, that it's just A, B, C, D. In fact, I'm waiting for somebody to make a translation that shows that has the acrostic poem in there. Just use different word choices and give me a poem. That's the translation I want. I think that'd be awesome. And two, I think this is really interesting about Proverbs 31, while you're all so generously flipping, as I can see, is that in the Hebrew Bible has the same books that our Old Testament has, but they're in a different order for our Jewish friends. And following the book of Proverbs, following this last chapter of Proverbs 31, is not Ezra, or I'm sorry, not even Ezra in our book, but is Ruth. So we end the book of Proverbs with this chapter on the wife of noble character, and then we read a story about a wife of noble and virtuous character. Isn't that kind of cool? I appreciate Mark Barker actually pointed that out to me a couple weeks ago when we were studying Ruth together. So let's go ahead and read Proverbs 31, starting in verse 10 through the end of the chapter. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions to her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes covering for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, and where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gates. It's a beautiful passage, isn't it? You can see why it's so popular on Mother's Day, describing this noble wife or virtuous mother. And I hope that there have been some positive maternal influences in your life that you can think of. That when you go through this passage and you hear about these traits and attributes, your mind goes to think about that person who has blessed you. Right? But I want to spend this morning, not too much longer, just breaking it down into kind of three key pillars that I think are at the heart of this description of this virtuous mother and this noble woman and noble wife. And the first that comes to mind when reading this, and maybe it was for you as well, is this woman's muscles, right? I mean, like literally, it even talks about her arms being strong for the work. In the text, we see that this woman, she's working in the fields, she's working at home, she's creating things, she's managing things, she's selling things. She is the muscle that makes the wheel move. And that ain't changed in 3,000 years, right? At home, it's still mama making things happen, making the wheel move and keeping us all together. You know, our moms are so often the ones that are keeping everything from falling apart at home. And that can go largely unnoticed. I mean, it does go largely unnoticed. But if mom decides she wants to go to the lake with friends for a week, you notice by about day 3, by the time she comes home, the place is barely hanging together, right? You know, she's keeping the wheel moving. You know, in fact, a little bit of an interesting thing. I saw this on social media, and I thought about it while writing this little bit, talking about all the things that mothers do that we don't know what we do without. This is talking about Christmas morning. On Christmas morning, this is how your mom watches you open presents, and then dad is just as surprised as everybody else because he didn't buy it. He wasn't involved. He don't know what you wanted, you know. There are a lot of things that mom handle that we don't think about. You know, they've been doing the heavy lifting since literal conception, and that heavy lifting, it lasts a lot longer than after those babies get out of the house. But here's the thing, while mothers are maybe naturally inclined to do that heavy lifting, we've got to make sure, as the non-mothers or mothers amongst each other, that they're taking care of themselves too, right? Because I think a lot of moms out there will work themselves to death without taking care of themselves. You know, it's our job to help them take care of themselves, to take care of them back. You know, nobody, even super moms, can go full throttle all the time without eventually crashing. We should be intentional about taking the weight off of our mother's shoulders and letting them breathe. Even if they fight to keep it on them shoulders, we got to be intentional about helping them take it off and breathe. Right, moms? Yes? All right. You have to agree to that too. You know, don't take it all on yourselves. You got to let us help take the rest, take some of the load a little bit, you know, because one, you deserve it. And two, most likely in a couple of weeks, we're going to really need you, and we need you fresh. All right? So if we can help take a load off, it's important. But we do want to thank you, moms, for all the strength that you have and the work you do that really forms so many of the foundations of the life that we live, and I'm thankful for that. The second kind of key quality here that I see from Proverbs 31 is a clear sense of a ministry calling. Do you see that when you read through this text? There's a clear sense of a ministry calling. All that work that she's doing, it's not for herself, it's for others. So much of that is for other people. First and foremost, we see that she's providing for her family. But then she also says that she makes sure her maidservants has a portion, that she extends her arms to the poor and opens her hands to the needy, that she trades and works to better the community as a whole, right? It starts with her, it starts with her household, and then those who are with her household, and then next thing you know, it's the whole community. Right? There's a deeper sense of ministry to what she is doing. And what is motherhood? if not a ministry, right? I'll tell you what, I might be a full-time minister, but I don't do as much ministry as any mom out there. You know, I know a lot of moms help set the example for their kids by doing what is right, by choosing what is right. How many Mother's Day sermons have we heard about how moms are really the key holders of faith, that they're the ones who help hand down that faith, or my mama taught me religion, as Mark said earlier, down to the next generation. You know, raising kids in the Lord is a huge ministry, it's a huge responsibility that our mothers, I think, have a very unique ability to do more than others, right? And that's, we're in Proverbs. The reading was in Proverbs. We're in Proverbs. Proverbs 22:6, right? That's in there as well. But it doesn't stop there. I want to tell you right now, at 30 years old, when I'm having troubles and I'm stuck and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, you know who I call? My mama. You know, I call my mom. And I tell you what, I have not had anybody in my entire life give me as much good advice on the regular as my mom. I could call her describing a situation over here in Ohio that she don't know the people, she don't know the stuff, and she's still going to give me a pretty good answer on what I should do best moving forward. The other person that competes with my mom is another mom, the mother of my children, right? Those are the two people that I go to whenever I need help, whenever I want guidance, whenever I want wisdom, whenever I want an insight that almost feels like it's from the Lord through the Holy Spirit in them. It's these two moms, right? Yeah. You know, a mom's ministry to guide us, to lead us, to prop us up, it continues long after those child rearing days. And I love how verse 23 touches on how her husband is respected in the community in part due to her ministry. Isn't that kind of cool that it just says her husband goes out to the city gates and is respected there as he sits among the elders? Like, that's tied in with the work of her ministry that's done. I like that. Or the fact that her children call her blessed. The implication of a mother's ministry goes far outside the home and spreads blessings much, much farther than even she, I think, can imagine, right? And along these lines, and thirdly and lastly here this morning, you know, we can see in this passage the importance, I think, of a mother's motivation. Motivation. Do mothers do what they do because they receive cheers from the crowd? If you're on any mother's Facebook group, you know that's not the case. I'm not, but I get a really good kick out of watching people post from mothers' pages and how a mom will say, I'm doing this, and 7 other moms say that they're doing it wrong. Moms aren't exactly always getting cheers from the crowd, right? Are moms doing it for the tax credit? Are moms doing it because they're really into, we'll say, unique smells, right? No, not at all. It's rooted in what I would say is a deeply divine love and nature that derives straight from our Creator. That's what I think it is. It's a deep love and nature derived from our Creator. Verse 30 said, charm is deceitful and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. There's a lot of stock these days put in temporary things, aren't there? Beauty, money, applause. But all of that fades. All of that fades. The most virtuous of people do what they do out of an awe, a respect, and a love for the Lord. You know, and understanding who He is and understanding His heart leads us to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, to do the best we can do anywhere. You know, and it's that motivation that can really, I think, free up someone to do the type of work our mothers so often do. Verse 21, it said, when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. When it snows, she has no fear. And then in verse 25, she is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Talking about fear, talking about worrying about tomorrow. I'm not, but I can only imagine how hard it is, how stressful it is, how nerve-wracking and anxious it is to be a good mom, right? Our mothers know that. But it seems to me that one of the best ways to overcome the stresses, the anxieties, and the troubles of that life is to anchor yourself in a motivation of serving God and being who He made you to be for those children, right? Right? If you want to overcome a fear for tomorrow and being able to laugh at the days to come, if you want to come to a point where you have no fear when that snowstorm comes, you got to find yourself rooted in a motivation of serving and loving God. Out of that will overflow the strength, love, and mercy needed to bless your people, right? And that's kind of where we are this morning. This passage, it's about the virtuous woman. It's about the noble mother. But I hope that these are qualities and goals that we are all striving for, right? I hope these are qualities we're all striving for. You know, we all want to be, all have muscle for the work. We all want to have a ministry calling. We all want to have a motive rooted in God, even if it's a woman in the text, right? I mean, there are a few, there are a few better people to emulate. If you want to have muscle for the work, if you want to have a ministry calling, if you want to have motive rooted in God, there's few better people to hold up as an example for that than a mom, I think, right? I think Solomon writing this would want all of us to pursue those things, but Solomon and the Spirit writing with him, it gives us this character, these qualities in the image of a mother and a wife, because we know that if anybody can be that noble person, if anybody can be that virtuous follower of God and blesser of people, it's going to be a mom, right? That's the way we see that. It's going to be a mom. So thank you, mothers, once again, for all that you do. If we can help you in any way this morning, whether it's through the prayers of the church or you would like to give your life to that great God who is originator and creator of all, we invite you to do so now. You can come forward as we stand and as we sing.